echoing Buddha's teaching, an experiential account of his wisdom. You may wonder why Buddha taught four noble truths. Many would say that really there should be only one truth, not many, but Buddha discovered four noble truths. So that is what I'm going to explain today with my own experience. With his awakening, Buddha discovered that this whole existence, depending on causal effect. In other words, he discovered that this whole universe is depending on paticca samuppada, which means dependent origination. That there are countless occurrence of cause and effect, which is happening every millisecond throughout this whole universe. So he labeled this process as dependent origination or paticca samuppada. This discovery revealed that this whole universe is in flux, is always arising and ceasing, which is dukkha, translated as suffering. In terms of how you feel or how you sense this changing nature or this dependent origination, which is happening around whole universe or in this existence, but for you to relate to that, you could see that happening within you, in your body, in your mind, and in your consciousness through your six sensory perceptions. But I like Alan Watts' translation, and he mentioned that the dukkha means dis-ease. That means you are not at ease all the time because you are always clinging to this changing nature or this arising and ceasing nature of this whole universe. And we do not need to hang on to it or connect with it. We could let that occurrence happen, step back, and be free from all this chaos. So that is what Buddha discovered, and he mentioned that as the first noble truth. When it individualized from your perspective, because you are clinging to your whole body, your mind, and all the emotions coming through you, all those are arising and ceasing. So you cannot see that or you cannot comprehend that because you are always entangled with it. Get lost in that whole process. That is why you couldn't identify that as the first noble truth or the as that changing nature. So what Buddha recognized was that that changing nature is the occurrence everywhere, every millisecond, as I mentioned earlier. So to really recognize that, you have to step aside or step out of it and witness what is happening there. So once you are witnessing it, you are away from that, and you would be seeing this occurrence of paticca or occurrence of arising and ceasing as incidents that have no relevance to you or not impacting you. This is the profound experience of non self. So, that is the first noble truth, as Buddha discovered. You could experience that as I did. Once you experience that, you know this is the absolute truth, and that is what Buddha mentioned as first noble truth. Before I go more detail into that, I would like to share an analogy and give some different perspective for you to comprehend of this particular profound experience. Since we are lost in this cycle of dependent origination or the flux of arising and passing away, we cannot comprehend this particular phenomena. We always lost in there. It is just like that philosophical analogy of a fish swimming around in the ocean looking for the ocean. So it is unconceivable if you are still inside this web of dependent origination or in this existence. So what you need to do is actually you have to get out of it. So the perfect analogy given by the Buddha for this is you are like a tadpole swimming in the water. You need to transcend or transform like a frog and then come out of the water, and then only you can truly see the this change in nature of this whole universe, and that change in nature how it's impacting your body, your mind, and your consciousness. So that kind of a profound experience is refers to as experience in the non-self, or in other words, in Buddha's teaching, once you have that kind of experience for a fraction of a second, you will become a stream winner, or in other words, sotapan. You may wonder why Buddha talked about three more truths. After this, there would be everything done, and you recognize the whole universe is just a flux of cause and effect. But with my experience, I realize why he mentioned about these three additional truths, because this particular experience could be just for a fraction of a second. When you measure it from this relative world, it may be a fraction of a second. But what you experienced was a timeless condition. So you don't need to remember that it is with you all the time. This would be abundantly clear to you as well once you get that experience of non self for a fraction of a second. And in the same time, you would see that really this arising of dukkha, or the second noble truth, the cause for arising of this dukkha, or the connecting with this existence, is or the your very rooted longing to be with this existence. So that is what Buddha mentioned that as the second noble truth, because that is a fact. You experience it and you realize firsthand that you are connecting with this existence because of your very rooted longing or that desire. So, this second noble truth is being mostly known as the truth of cause of suffering. But in this case, you have been experiencing this truth or this fact. Obviously, you would know the third noble truth as well, because you experience that cessation of this dukkha, because you went beyond this arising and ceasing nature and experienced the non self. In other words, the emptiness. Once you have these facts identified, recognized, experienced, you may wonder there shouldn't be any attachment or any clinging to this changing nature anymore. But irony is that our way long habits kick in and then keep us still entangled with this universe, and will find difficult to get back there or to repeat that experience at will. This is where Buddha's second most vital discovery come to play. You may have heard about this. Buddha mentioned about 10 fetters. Those are the different dimension of our individual nature, our personality, that comes with these 10 fetters. You could see that on the screen now. Once you realize the first noble truth, the nature of non-self, you realize that really there is no self-identification to cling to. Because of that, that our composition or our build of these 10 fetters will scatter. And of those 10 fetters, three of the very first fetters would eradicate it from you or from your personality, if I say so. When that happens, you become a stream winner. In other words, a Sotapanna, the first stage of enlightenment out of four stages. Then Buddha discovered that to progress on these stages of enlightenment, there is a path. So that is what he names this path as the Noble Eightfold Path. So that is the fourth noble truth, and that is also a fact, meaning that any person who has become stream winner, and that person has to embrace noble eightfold path to progress on the rest of the stages in the enlightenment and eliminate the rest of the seven fetters to attain full enlightenment. That means you will no longer be intact or interact with this existence as you used to be, but you may be responding to whatever comes through this existence, but not react to them. So that is the final freedom that you will get with the awakening. And you may have noticed that this whole discussion is all about Four Noble Truth. But in addition to that, I touch upon dependent origination, four stages of enlightenment, 10 fetters, Noble Eightfold Path, and non self. In other words, the emptiness. So, all of those are interconnected to the Four Noble Truth. In other words, Buddha's core teaching is Four Noble Truths. So, all the other teachings are interconnected and fit into this Four Noble Truth. Once Buddha mentioned that by saying, like footprint of any animal walking in this jungle can be fit into a footprint of an elephant, all my Dhamma is included in this Four Noble Truth. That means all of Buddha's teachings are leading you to Four Noble Truth. So once you realize or recognize or experience Four Noble Truths, you will be liberated or enlightened. In Buddha's words, you will be awakened.